I love the draft. I'm a big draft guy to sometimes my detriment. I think it's pretty easy to determine, or at least easier to determine, which like 3 or 4 year players in college are going to be good. They're like solid NBA type of players. Even though those guys often drop in the draft, I'm thinking guys like Grant Williams, Javon Carter, Matisse, those kinds of players that have a lot of tape on them.
Draymond Green,
Draymond. They do something good, and usually at least one of those things that they do good is like play defense and play team basketball. The tougher thing for me is like talented and oftentimes like hyped freshmen who you just don't know will put it together. Devin Booker is a pick that you made and made me look bad for undervaluing him. And then Josh Jackson like hasn't put it together and made you look bad for picking him. Happens all the time, happens to everybody. How do front offices like talk to players to determine if they're going to be and make the decision if they're going to be like, we think this guy is a Devin Booker type that could really blossom? Or if it's like, I don't know, I think he's more of like, I don't think he's going to put it together. He's just like all talent and not quite there.
Yeah, it's hard, obviously, because as you mentioned, the one and done guys, you have a limited body of work. The league is really restricted going back into the high school gyms and things like that. So most of your evaluation, not all of it, you can start evaluating them in the high school all-star games and things like that, the McDonald's game, the Nike Hoop Summit, but it's not like a long period of time. Like with Mikal Bridges, as you mentioned, he was at Nova, I think 4 years, played 3. So you had a lot of body of work there at a high level. As you know, their teams were very good. I think they won 2 national titles when he was there. So, that's, I don't say it's an easier evaluation, but it's like a, to equate it to a stock, it's less volatile. You know what I mean? You kind of know that Mikal Bridges probably is not going to be the MVP of the league, but he's also not going to fit. He's going to be, and it looks like he's going to be a very good player. As like a Draymond Green or somebody else. But then there's we all get tempted. The home run swing. The lightning in a bottle. Can you find the next Kobe Bryant? Maybe Devin Booker is that, or I don't know. I don't want to compare him to Kobe, but he's an all-star this year and could be for the next 10 years and go to the Hall of Fame someday. So that's the challenge and the temptation. Now, as far as how to suss it out, that's, what's hard and why every team, has success and failures. You obviously hope you hit more than you miss. But I think for me, guys, the guys who are fully committed to basketball and engaged in basketball. I know that sounds simple, but there's not a lot of family distractions. There's not a lot of off-court BS. Now, you don't expect them to be robots, but can they minimize the distractions, block out the noise? And the hard part, as you guys can imagine, is when you're talking about teenage kids, once you give them millions of dollars, how they're going to react to that. Are they going to be more motivated to prove, that was the right call, you taking me in the lottery, and I want to be an all-star and be a max player like Devin Booker is? Or, I'm obviously not going to name names here, but then they say, you know what, I made it, man. I'm good. I never expected to be here. I'm able to take care of my family. I just on this rookie scale deal, whatever. I'm guaranteed $15-20 million regardless of what happens. So I'm good. That's the challenge, and that's I think any of your listeners, if you they say, I'd be motivated. I'd be professional and work hard. And then if the three of us walked into their office tomorrow with a couple briefcases, say, all right, here's $20 million. Well, maybe I'll sleep in tomorrow. I'll have a few more drinks tonight, or relax a little bit. That's the challenge, and that's why it's so hard, because obviously those guys haven't gotten the money before. So seeing how they respond and how they will be motivated, that's where a lot of the intel and character work on the background side of it comes into play.
I would never get better. I would be the exact same player. Minimum.
What would you say the most important trait for somebody in charge of player personnel to have? Like the most important personality trait?
Boy, that's a great question. So like the head coach or GM of a team?
GM.
So the GM of a team. So I think the most important trait there, Spike, is, I don't know if I can narrow it down to one. A couple of confidence and by extension, delegation. You know what I mean? So what I mean by that is, I think it's easy to, especially when you're a new executive or a young executive, to feel like, if I'm not involved in everything, that people are going to say, well, why isn't this guy involved in that? Or what, does he think he's too big time for that? Where I feel like the opposite of that is true. It's the confidence and assuredness in yourself where you say, look, I know my strengths and weaknesses. I know what I'm good at and know what I'm not. Do I want to be involved in this? Am I good at this? Not really. Am I just doing it for appearances? Probably. So how do I pass it off to somebody else and know that, if my strength is, say, player evaluation, I'm going to spend most of my time on that and have the confidence when the time comes, whether that's to draft somebody, trade for somebody, or sign for somebody, say, you know what? I'm good at that. I've spent time at that. Maybe I don't know, the newest like training techniques as far as what our assistant trainer is doing with STEM and manual therapy. Maybe I don't know what our strength and conditioning coach is doing in the pool or with different training devices, but somebody else can figure that out. I'm going to stay player focused. That's something in hindsight, I wish I did more of or had the confidence to do. And that's where, again, like at Danny Ainge, and I think the best executives, I imagine Pat Riley's like that. I've never worked for the guy. All that other BS, somebody else can handle that. I'm going to stick to player evaluation because I know that's how I'll be judged. And again, the good organizations, the best owners empower their top executives to do that, and others do not, and create all this peripheral noise that frankly makes it very hard to do your job. And I think that's why those teams have a lot of turnovers with their head coaches and executives.